Well, the ABC waded into the transgender debate this week with an episode of Four Corners looking at transitioning and gender-affirming care for children. Much of it centred on the gender clinic at Westmead Children's Hospital in Sydney and a 2021 study that looked at children who attended the clinic. This is some of what was contained in that report.
In 2021, Westmead researchers published a peer-reviewed report examining the clinical characteristics of 79 young people seeking help at the gender service. They pointed to complex family trauma amongst many of those reviewed. High rates of adverse childhood experiences, including family conflict, parental mental illness and loss of important figures via separation. A history of maltreatment was also common. They stopped short of finding a causal link. They argued going straight to the gender-affirming model is dangerous and said a trauma-informed model of mental health care should be included in all gender care clinics.
The report also found that some doctors had been put under pressure to, quote, compromise their own ethical standards by engaging in a tick-the-box treatment process. Staff shortages and resignation followed this research, and consequently only 3 children have been treated at the clinic this year. And more recent research done at the hospital found that gender-related distress was either resolved or disappeared for 22% of children who went to the clinic. The Four Corners report triggered New South Wales Health Minister Ryan Parks to launch a review into the way gender-affirming care is delivered, and rightly so. The story, in my view, gave a largely sympathetic ear to proponents of gender-affirming care and gender transitioning for children, but it did include a handful of people who questioned the practice. And the ABC was clearly worried about that because they were on the back foot before the story had even gone to air. ABC News editorial policies director Mark Maley penned an opinion piece on the ABC website in the hours before the Four Corners episode aired because he knew there would be criticism of the fact they even included people who questioned medical intervention for children. He wrote, quote, "We were determined not to stand in judgment of either side of this debate. We wanted the story to reflect the weight of evidence, but we were acutely aware that the science is new and evolving in this area. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call news." But as predicted, trans activists hid out after the episode was broadcast, including at least one that accused the ABC of siding with people who supposedly associated with Nazis. Seriously. This is a genuine issue that needs to be aired in public. It's gotten to the point where one of Australia's biggest medical insurers has decided that from this month it will no longer insure private doctors against claims relating to gender transition treatment for children, such as puberty blockers. They've done that because they've looked at the market, they've looked at the research, they've looked at the trends, and they've determined that insuring against those claims is too much of a liability. What does that tell you? But this is the discussion that transgender activists don't want us to have. To even question the validity of gender transitioning children is apparently transphobic, which means it's harmful, which means it can't be talked about. Now, it's a great way to shut down debate, but it's so out of hand that even the ABC is now coming under fire for daring to touch it, even when it is largely sympathetic to the cause. I mean, we are talking about children here, people whose brains haven't fully developed. And we're not meant to talk about whether they should be allowed to have potentially life-changing medical procedures. That's exactly the message The Age sent when it sacked one of its long-running columnists, Julie Sago, after she criticised the paper for not running a feature that she had been commissioned to write on youth gender transition. According to Sago, the new editor of the paper, Patrick Elliott, told her that he could not publish my piece under my byline because it would damage the reputation of the masthead. She went on to say, "I would suggest he's damaged the masthead more by not publishing it." No discussion allowed. But we cannot let that happen. There is far too much at stake. Always beware of people who do not want to engage in considered debate. It's usually because their arguments don't stand up.